okay, like that game was, that pick was so insane for this draft
Yeah.
that it makes sense that Unicorns are picking red side.
All right, for what could be the final time here tonight.
So Cassidy and Rise as the early bans, surely coming in.
Well, you got one.
So they
other's
stayed
Tom
with the
Kench.
Tom Kench that we've seen the last couple of games.
I think it's still smart.
Yeah.
I think Tom Kench is fantastic against comps where you have a lot of single target DPS, which is what Unicorns have been running a lot.
So now you would anticipate the Kassadin, or the Vlad would be the other one that was that
Yeah.
mid lane ban.
I like the Cassidy here. Question is, with the last ban, do they want to target this carry champ from Chachi and Aurelia, which we know he likes to play and could potentially last pick as well on
But
the red side?
you
Or do
know-
you just target Vlad?
You know he's going to pick probably the Gnar if it's available.
Yeah.
On first rotation. It'll be like Gnar and jungle or Gnar and Sivir. At this point, we're gearing up for an Elise first pick with the Rek'Sai being gone.
Ooh, I think
potentially.
Sivir first pick actually coming in here from T2, unless it gets banned by Unicorns, which it probably should end with the last ban. We talked about the Shen on red side, banning it away from Unicorns, not being forced to play the more supportive top laner. I think Sven wants his Sivir. I think G2 are looking at teamfighting comps being very effective for them, because Unicorns like to push out side lanes, then walk into team fights.
Yeah.
Ashe is a
All right.
completely useless ban against Sven, unless that's just a filler ban. Well, it does absolutely nothing.
G2 did this on red side in game number 2, the one that they would eventually lose. So it's not like it's the first time that we're seeing this. As you said, now the Sivir here, I guess, is one
Or Gnar.
option. Okay.
First picked. All right.
Okay, so clearly respecting what Chachi did, but Chachi has a lot of other tools. He has the cannon.
He
likes
does.
to play against Gnar.
And the Aurelia is up as well. I mean, Expect is struggling in a lot of these matchups
Sure.
against Visit Chachi as well. So it's not even like they've given him a solid pick.
No, I think this is actually risky by G2 because of some of the counter picks we know Chachi likes to play. Now you give Sivir Vlad. So we talked about the Cassidy and Rise ban, but Vlad is like the third pick then for Exile, and you give the best AD carry in this meta over to Unicorns. We will most likely see a Jhin from Sven, but the problem is Unicorns are building a bulldozer comp, like a composition with like a ghost mid laner, speeder from AD carry that can just dive the enemy back line is what we call the bulldozer comps. And Jhin is very bad against it. So we might see G2 wait with the AD carry pick to see more of the comp from Unicorns, or go for something with mobility, like Lucian.
Yep.
Even though it means you have to win lane. So I don't really like Lucian that much against Sivir. Like, I like it for the lane, but I think it's so risky because if you don't win that laning phase, well, then you're going to struggle.
The Vlad does allow Malzahar through. It's not the best matchup, but we've seen it time and time again, and it is one that later on Malzahar has a lot of comfort with. Obviously, Vlad will scale as well, but there's a lot of denial in that.
Yeah, and very importantly, again, we see G2 wait with the bottom lane. See if Unicorns is running this full-on dive bulldozer comp, or if you can actually play Jhin, which is most likely the preferred pick for G2. But it's important you see more picks than Gragas fits into bulldozer, so that's risky. Aurelia can dive the backline very effectively.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So now Jhin is extremely risky as a pick without Tahm Kench next to him.
And this is where if Unicorns are smart, they'll lock the Aurelia or whatever top lane they're doing and save the support.
They do it.
That's exactly what they do, because now there's no way of G2 definitively having a better bottom lane matchup. So now it's likely to be the
Lucian.
mobility route, because you want to at least be able to do something in fights.
Exactly.
You don't want just a comp that, as you said, gets dove, gets blasted, and that's it.
Some other teams like to run Ezreal if they want mobility from the AD carry and have a bit more scaling
Some
as
other
well, but
Just a few.
Just a couple.
just
I
a
hear that's
couple.
quite successful.
But I don't think Ezreal is the strongest pick in the current meta. Tristana is another one who adds mobility for herself.
And you
but
can really scale well. Not to mention, you can demolish towers.
yeah, but one of the problems about Tristana is like she doesn't destroy Sivir at all in lane. Sivir gets very easy spell shields on the bombs from Tristana, and oftentimes Sivir gets to push in Tristana, and then you have to last hit on a tower where you actually destroy your own minions with your explosion. So
Blocked.
T2 is not happy, I think, with this bot lane selection.
Yeah, I mean, going back to game 1, though, we talked about how Sven and Mithy will sometimes opt into not extremely beneficial lanes because they know they can do it on later in the game.
Taric may fit very well here. If you're running Bulldozer, get something that keeps you all alive under that tower for as long as possible. The Braum isn't going to punish particularly hard. The Taric can help you sustain against the Tristana and give you even trades as well. So this is a matchup that Unicorns, theoretically have crafted quite a nice composition for what their end game is. They want to go diving, they want to be able to take out G2. Now it's on execution.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I would have preferred like the Sivir first pick. Coming in from G2 just to lock down that best available AD carry, because top lane has had a lot of different picks up there, and there are things you can pick against Gnar. But obviously Gnar has been a very impactful pick in the playoffs, and Expect, as you said, is struggling. Like, they need a comfort pick for him. Do not put him in a bad matchup because he will just die 500 times against Chachi. So it makes a lot of sense, but it has kind of forced G2's hand a little bit, and it's a bit of a wishy-washy team comp now from them. Yeah, the scaling is awesome. Like, get Tristana and Malzahar to late game, sure, you have great scaling on G2. But Unicorns as well, Gragas, Sivir, Vlad, Taric, like, these are some of the strongest team fighting champions in the current meta. And at the same time, you got some good matchups across the board. I need to see Trick honestly be super active on this, at least in the early game, to try and really put any of the lanes in favor of G2.
Well, we'll see if he's able to get it done. We've got it all locked in. Really, question marks coming out to see if the 2v2 lane can hang tough against Veritas and Hylissang, Sivir, and Taric. But again, it is all on those junglers. Trick has been pretty active. He has gotten quite a lot done, but Move has been stepping up, especially in the game they were able to win. Unicorns backs against the wall, but they've crafted themselves a solid composition as the coaches go to shake hands. What could be the final time in this series tonight. We'll have to see if G2 can close this one out. It's going to be tough.
Definitely.
Going to be a tough one.
Didn't think the camera's coming on us.
I like
the pose.
You can do a pose. I like the Unicorns comp. Like, coming out of the draft, I actually think the Unicorns have the better composition coming into this. It's all going to be about those early game skirmishes. I mean, if Chachi gets a kill or two very early, this top lane is done.
I mean, first picking Gnar against a player who has shown multiple counter picks to Gnar just doesn't have that much value.
Chachi, man, we'll have to find out. Unicorns fans, they believe. If you still think so, can Unicorns bring this one back? Make it a game number 5. Are we scraping silver tonight? Hashtag UOL win. Or is G2 going to close this one out? Hashtag G2 win at LoL Esports. We keep them tallying, but for now, we're on the Rift.
It's going to be a very intense top lane. A lot of people have been talking about the Frozen Mallet Gnar and how it actually does against the Irelia. You cannot really overlook how strong Irelia is into this matchup. But if Gnar gets comfortably past the Frozen Mallet point without Irelia eclipsing him, it is a winnable matchup as it gets later. But that is a very risky game to play, and it's the one G2 are trying in this game.
Yeah, I have seen a few other item choices instead of rushing Frozen Mallet on Gnar, which can be very risky due to the all-in power of Irelia, especially at level 6. We actually go for just flat early HP and armor. Like something like Barmy Cinder first item, or get early armor, like potentially even like look at something like a Sunfire Cape as the first or second item to try and just like to stop Irelia from being able to all-in you, and then kind of just like range farm against her, and then you go for Mallet later. I don't think it's guaranteed like the build from Expect. It's just something I've seen from like spectating some matchups. Can't say if it is the best choice. Not confident in that at all.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Expect might need some help from Trick, but that leaves the bottom lane open. I mean, if Trick really wants to help both of his lanes on either side of the map, he's going to have to really stretch out those 8 legs this game.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, Trick is on the preferred early game jungler who can be very active on the map. But again, G2 have scaling from AD carry and from mid, but so does Unicorns a lot. And now you have some of these matchups here where if Sven and Mythic can play, 10 out of 10, they're going to be fine. But it can be very, very tricky.
There we go.
The
spell shield level 1.
It's not there level 1. But once you start getting spell shield as Sivir, a lot of these bombs from Tristana won't do a whole lot, or they just feed us some more mana. And even worst case, if you don't use it because you want to try and, force Sivir to run out of mana, Sivir just stands next to your creep, or her creep, when it dies and gets the explosion, the spell shield is that one. So there are definitely ways.
Level 2 out of G2. Able to put the damage down onto Hylissang. I wonder how Sven and Mithy will be able to play this Tristana into Sivir. They were making a couple of jokes and remarks towards Reckless last week on the Sivir side of it, watching the Forgiven matchup, talking about the spell shield timings.
Yeah, Reckless missed a lot of spell shields on very simple bombs.
Careful, he's at the analyst desk. You don't want him to come over here. And,
you want him to hear it. He actually just walked by us when we said it. I looked him in the eye.
Well, at least now he knows.
He loves it. Don't worry, he loves it.
Yeah.
it's the beautiful part about the game. You know, when you're in game and you're playing, you don't want to hear any critique. Outside, the pro players, they laugh. They always joke with each other. There's a lot of banter in Europe, if you guys have never noticed. Calling each other bad happens, I think, every day in Europe, probably.
Oh yeah, that actually is like a greeting.
The only thing we got to be careful of is
It's a new hello.
it doesn't become true.
Yeah.
Like, it's only funny if it's not true. If we're actually good as a region and performing, and that's what we're going to see for the World Championships coming up. And G2, they're expecting to be there. Trick looking now for a mid lane gank.
I mean, G2's already locked in, so they can't really avoid being
Well, yeah,
there.
they still are expecting to be there.
But still,
yeah.
nonetheless,
you're right.
this series we've not seen them control like we did during the regular season.
I agree.
And also, I mean, we had the question of how will they adapt necessarily to this meta and how can they deal with unicorns. It just hasn't been quite on the same level just yet. Hill is saying he's the one who takes the bomb damage. Veritas a little low on mana, but that's fine. He's Sivir.
And that's kind of the thing, right? Even if G2 wins the series, you still kind of leave it with the feeling of, oh, the #1 team in Europe should honestly have played better. Like, should have been cleaner. But Unicorns are love on this patch. It is kind of their patch as well because it allows them to play really aggressive with their style and actually force a lot of plays.
They've also done well overall. I mean, there have been a number of mistakes, and they find themselves down in match point. But nonetheless, this is a better performance than we could have expected out of the Unicorns coming into playoffs.
And now, obviously, a lot of viewers, I've already seen some of the stuff on Reddit.
I was going to say, thanks
or,
Reddit for that.
You know,
title.
very concerned about Europe's overall level and what's going to happen at Worlds. We're just going to see a little trade. Bot lane, no one's going to die. But about the overall, level, here's a very, very, very important thing to remember. These teams will boot camp in Korea.
Yep.
You learn so much. Teams change so much. The level you have when you actually finish the regular season or playoffs doesn't even mean that much for Worlds itself because you got 3 weeks in Korea boot camping against some of the best teams in the world. That is where you gotta pick up a lot of stuff. That is where the best teams will improve a ton. So as long as you have a lot of potential, you can actually then improve a lot and you come in as a completely different team.
Ooh, and Chachi's coming in completely different this time. And flat
Oh,
from flat, and he
commit to
juked
it.
it. Expect.
Chachi, well, here's the beginning of this matchup. That's exactly how we anticipate this matchup to go. You know, Chachi can always follow Expect. They trade flash for flash. It means Expect won't get away so easily next time, but again, Chachi can't follow quite as easily himself. Will look for the TP back into lane, has Sheen, and this is where a matchup becomes the most dangerous for Na'Vi. The burst damage that comes out of Irelia past this Sheen point is so significant that Expect has to respect every single trade over every minion that Visit Chachi is in lane for. And look at it, Chachi didn't use his TP. He's going to allow Expect to push a big wave away from him. And now Expect's giving him all this CS. Irelia will look to at least hold the wave for a little while she takes the
Oh, and
first
he's missing
few
CS
minions.
too.
Expect even misses CS
It's
out
on
of
purpose. He doesn't need this gold.
All right, in comes the Blade Surge.
But yeah, Chachi, obviously, playing a matchup he likes. Chachi's one of the Irelia players as well. If you guys ever wonder about what you skill as Irelia, if you are Chachi, you max W, and then you actually max Q second. Some Irelia players max E second, but he goes Q second, and he loves to dance around, blasting these minions with Q and just keep like flying around and kiting people in and out. And a lot of burst when he actually jumps in the first time. W, Q, and Sheen at the same time.
This is painful.
Kind of surprised.
You can see Tricks having to come up here. They anticipate the moves here, but they are going to catch up.
Oh, right into the cocoon, right into the wall. That's a quick first blood.
Pyra.
I mean, I'm just
Mid
watching
lane is
Exile do it.
going.
Nah, they make it out. It's cool. I do call it.
I was waiting for you to go like, oh, mid lane! Big plays. In fact, Exile just walks away from the ulti.
Oh, and there's going to be maybe a big play down on this bottom side. Veritas can't spell shield in time. Mythy gets the final shot.
Hylissang was back in base. G2 outplaying the bottom lane of Unicorns of Love and getting that kill top lane. So while Unicorns look good in the pick and ban phase, 2 early plays in favor of G2. Suddenly a goal lead that really counts.
Yeah.
And very important that Expect
let's take a look at it.
gets this kill.
Relane stuff
Was
happening.
looking to recall out of this, was not prepared. I mean, he would never have got there in time unless he was already moving to the exchange, and this in the mid lane was not much of a trade in the end of all things. An exchange of ults. But bottom lane, Sven was looking to recall out already, and as we come back to live, you can see Move was looking to head bot. Doesn't have his ultimate available though, so doesn't quite have the same presence that you would anticipate from him, and this bot lane matchup is not going well for the Unicorns.
Yeah, you can already see it working out in the CS. The Tristana just out farming Veritas at this point, and the fact that he got taken out a little bit quicker than he would have expected, or rather would have liked to get back to base without dying for it.
Maybe don't
G2
sit
on a big
alone
gold
on the
swing.
tower when your support is
Yeah.
recalled.
Well, and I mean,
Step
Mythy
one.
even had the killing blow on it too. It was a close thing.
And also a perfect back now for Sven here. You get your BF sword, you start building towards your Zeal and your Hurricane, because obviously you want BF sword into Hurricane, preferably on Tristana. Don't rush Infinity Edge. It's actually not that efficient for you.
You'll just get it.
You will definitely get it later. But first you want your Hurricane with that BF sword that is perfect for him right now. Been able to win this laning phase. Chachi is still the man we're looking at to carry this. But expect his back, you know, a bit like game one, where it's please don't die, beauty. That's
Well,
kind
Trick
of
is
your
just
job.
setting up a tent at this point.
Yeah, Trick is just making sure expect doesn't die.
Up. In goes the Elise. Chachi dives right back on in, trying to dodge out Transcendent Blade, but he knows he's a dead man, and Expect finishes the job.
Chachi feels like he knows this matchup to the point where he can go aggressive, but was not expecting Trick to be in the back of the lane. Trick knew that at one point Chachi was going to queue forward, and that's the cooldown window to take him.
And he has been allowed to do this because the bottom lane has gone in favor of Sven and Mythy. Now back on mid, Perks is gonna give Exile something to be suppressed about. Can he get away? The Voidlings just not finishing him off.
Such a letdown just watching Vladimir run away, not even use a single
Yeah, I'm
summoner.
not as excited about this mid lane matchup
full
as the
combo,
rest of the lanes,
Perks.
in all honesty, guys.
This is the problem when you're laying against a champion who builds early magic resist. You don't really kill them 1v1, but you try and just like pressure them out of lane. But then they also sustain back, and it gets a little bit with the
Yeah,
combo.
Vladimir does do that.
The combo, when you use that plus any crowd control later, does tend to result in a dead Vlad. Apart
Yeah.
from, I think it was like yesterday in NA, we saw one get away on like 10 health.
But in this game here, Stress, he's going to have a Tristana hitting him as well,
Yep.
doing that Malzahar ulti. And this Tristana is going to be pretty fed in this game because she's just free farming in the bottom lane. Move has not been able to do anything on the map in this game here because Trick has been there twice in the top lane. When Move was actually on top side, he's now
try.
trying mid.
Oh,
There's
Yep,
a passive for Perks as well.
okay. They turn over to Move. Trick is here. The barrel
Meh.
doesn't really push him that far.
Move was trying to do something a little bit elaborate there. He was trying to make the play where you body slam forward, force the flash out, because if you don't flash, you get flashed on, and Move didn't actually use his flash in the end of all things because of the way that Trick was there. So it looks very underwhelming from the Unicorns on that mid lane gank. And honestly, underwhelming is what you can say about the Unicorns so far in this matchup.
Chachi, he is getting outplayed right now, fighting right into the Narbar. Transcendent Blades trying to heal. Expect's gonna flash followed, but the boulder nails him in the back of the head.
Yeah, you know the game is going terribly wrong for you when Chachi gets solo kill top by Expect after obviously 2 ganks from Trick.
All right, Exile's going in here. Let's see if he can get the solo kill onto Perks. It's gonna be hard flashing, and he finishes the job. Move was there for insurance. Finally, Unicorns are on the board.
I feel like almost a bit of a classic G2 at this point. When everyone is doing well,
Perks dies.
Perks ends up dying somehow.
But that's
somewhere.
it's statistically significant, right?
It's
If Perks is dying and everywhere else on the map is good, G2 are winning.
Hold the stats. Mythy wants this.
I'll have to see if the stats guys actually agree with me on that one. Hylissang's going really low. Mythy does pop out the Glacial Finisher, and down goes Hylissang. Just popped like that. Exhaust onto Veritas. Sven looking to give himself one more, and he does it. A double kill. The Tristana's already getting big.
Real difficult to play up against the Tristana Braum comp because as soon as you jump forward, you start getting those
Hold
Braum
up here.
passive stacks up, Chachi.
All right, into the boomerang. And wouldn't you know it, like clockwork, Trick is back. Chachi has no flash. Nar smash, and Trick picks up the kill. 7-1. G2 are running away with this early game.
definitely everything here is now falling apart when a Tristana Braum gets to their level 6. Gets the ultis, well then the all-in suddenly becomes a lot scarier. Hylissang was not able to charge ulti in time. Ends up dying again. And Chachi, well, when the enemy jungler camps you this hard and your own jungler is farming but not winning on CS, you start, you know,
Okay.
being a little bit annoying.
Oh, that was not a... That cast was not very explosive.
No, so Elise pick here for Trick has basically been perfect for
So
him
good.
because he's been top lane so often and he's been
Chachi's
able
not
to
a good
just
game.
not only get the kills, but he was able to get the kills when Move was there as well. So Move also ended up wasting time on top side. Let's see the exchange. Hylissang does not charge ulti at all, gets stunned, then gets knocked up, so perfect CC chain. And when Hylissang can actually charge the ulti after the stuns, well then it's too late. So just perfect CC chaining for Mythy. And Sven able to pick up easy kills. Great play from the G2 bottom lane. And then top lane, well, I mean, we can't really blame Chachi at this
You
point.
wanted to farm, Chachi. You wanted to get any CS.
Surprise!
Well,
Oh boy.
good luck with that. And this is what we were talking about is if Expect gets past that first item point, realistically, the Aurelia matchup is not as significant anymore. And now that Aurelia is 0-4, Expect is 2 kills, 2 assists,
now you can
no
do whatever.
deaths. It's irrelevant. The matchup is irrelevant because Expect is going to crush Chachi this entire game.
And that's the crazy thing, because Unicorns will love after the draft. If you looked at like ways for G2 to kind of win the early game, it would be obviously stopping Aurelia from trying to bully the Gnar. So with Elise as the early game pick, you should assume she's going top lane. Well, Move wasn't able to kind of react and help out Chachi at all. Just kind of left Chachi on his own, so he died multiple times. And bottom lane, well, bottom lane was not supposed to go 0-2, 0-1 and get 3 kills over to G2's bottom lane, so your side lanes have just lost straight up from Unicorns of Love, and no one has been able to help each other.
Yeah, this has been rough, and now Sven starts to show off pushing power that Tristana can bring. He's even able to disengage from the fight. Hylissang does get the dazzle off. They stun, but Mithy is there. In comes Exile, but he gets popped up before he can do enough damage. And that's the end of that right now. Unicorns are foiled again. Meanwhile, Expect is free hitting top tower.
Great to see Mithy's positioning again in this fight here. Ends up stepping in front of the stunned Tristana. Blocks a bit of damage and then knocks up the Vladimir when he dives in towards the backline.
Forces out a Tower Cult when there's no
Everything.
real response when it comes to damage from G2, and Unicorns used so much and didn't get anything at all. Okay, they got Sven's flash. Like, that may have some effect in a couple of minutes, but for what they used, pretty much not exactly the trade they want.
And they're starting to show the desperate moves of a team that are one loss away from
And
going towards
6,000
third.
gold down.
This is not looking good at 15 minutes. I mean, it may seem crazy to say, okay, it's desperate times at 15 minutes, but you cannot lose this game. You are out of this series. You go down to the third place match. Not a terrible finish for Unicorns, but they just wanted so much more. And right now, they do not look to be getting it.
And Chachi wanted so much more. He gets his Aurelia pick. He wants to win this matchup and be the hero, and then he gets camped completely. And then his bot lane loses without any jungle help. Just bot lane loses.
Yeah, that's not hurting all that much, but that's okay. Exile's trying to walk out, but all of a sudden,
This
in comes
will.
Sven, and they're just blown to bits.
I mean, there's not a lot that Exile can do. For him to push the wave back, he has to step forward, which means he gets Malzahar ulted, which means everybody collapses on him, he dies,
And then
he loses
tower.
his tower. And this was all Exile trying not to lose his tower by pushing it back out towards G2, and it's not going to work.
Yeah, 16 minutes into this game, there is a ridiculous gold lead. G2 have just completely outclassed in the side lanes. It's bled all the way into the mid, and Exile is having a real rough time.
I would say bot lane outclass, and I would say Trick outclassing Move.
Well, yeah, the
as well
2v1 is definitely
in
one
this
way to
game.
outclass. That's,
Like, the
that's
amount
what
of
I meant.
ganks Trick is pulled up in the top lane, put everything in favor of Expect.
Yeah.
And of course, the bottom lane on its own, just outplaying Unicorn's bot lane completely.
Yeah, it was allowed to. I mean, rather, Trick was allowed to go up top because of the 2v2. Let's see how this one started again. Perkz does get the suppression on, but Exile, he thinks he can walk away.
I mean, you can't really all in when you have no void links, but he's just trying to buy time for the rest of G2 to show up, so that's why he's ulting, just to keep Exile in place, and it works, because then Sven is here, Trick is there.
Sven's everywhere.
Oh, let's give a Rift Herald as well over to the top laner.
Well,
Stack it on.
Yeah, Expect is 2 levels up already. Way further ahead on
Right,
item.
Move is gonna have the hero move.
I don't know about that.
I don't even know whether it would do much, even if they did steal it and give it over to Chachi. The thing is, Chachi played 1 through 5 exactly how you want to play the matchup. Punish, get the recall, get the sheen, and then did not anticipate Trick coming top lane, which was the fatal flaw in the Unicorns' game plan. Move was even in the area, but wasn't in position to respond.
Yeah.
And from that moment, the Unicorns have been completely on the back foot.
And you always look back at small micro things, like, oh, should he have flashed when he saw the cocoon out of the bush, but then he wouldn't have a flash for the follow-up gank. Move should have been there at some point to help him as well. 0 assistance from your jungler. He's now sitting here, trying to pull off a potential flank on top side. Problem is, if you are Unicorns and you start fighting anywhere, every single member, except for Exile, is weaker than the counterpart.
G2 also have the TP on Expect. Yes, Chachi has his as well, but the two have significantly different strengths when they arrive in play.
Yeah, this is going to be so difficult. Unicorns, anything they can do to get back into this game, to get a little bit of gold in their pockets would be helpful, but G2 are just going to strangle them out from here.
I mean, it's where you start looking for small victories. They can be very small if you make
Maybe
them
they can kill
happy,
Perks.
if you keep
They got him once.
Yeah, killing Perks once, that helps. You know, if you can actually defend your tier 2 turrets right now for like 5-6 minutes and just keep farming.
Let's be real though, Sven is the real issue right now.
He's playing Tristan, who gets to hit every tower he wants. That is a real issue. But for Unicorns, at least they can kind of wait now for Baron to spawn. And they know G2 will probably need a few minutes before Baron is a realistic objective to go for. So that buys a little bit of time to like complete maybe a second item if you are Unicorns of Love. But the problem is it's very small victories we're looking at, and these victories will not win you the game. They just kind of delay the game ever so slightly. You need G2 to mess up. You need G2 to drop the ball completely. Otherwise, Unicorns won't be able to win the game.
Well, that has happened this series on a couple of occasions. So Unicorns, they can sit back and hope, but this is a tough task for them. As we approach the 20-minute mark, G2 keeping a firm hold on this map, not allowing Unicorns to get involved. A few wards cleared away. Expect's gonna flash for Chachi here. Chachi is just not having a great game. Autos and boomerangs, and that's all it takes.
Didn't need to jump, didn't need anything. He did flash actually, I believe, as Chachi flashed earlier. So he evened it up on that count.
That hurts to watch.
Just autos him down with Hyper and the Frozen Mallet. Good luck, Chachi. You are not getting to play much League of Legends this game.
First pick Nara is working out pretty well when backed up by Trick, and Exile is going to have to pull out. He is surrounded. Flash. Okay, Trick sinks his fangs in. Exhaust is down, but way too late. Hylissang is going to fall, and meanwhile Sven just keeps on pushing.
Yeah, I feel like G2 are snowballing this game.
Yeah,
just
a little
in
bit.
case anyone has missed it.
This is
Yeah.
this might even be a textbook case of that.
I mean, so far, if Perks didn't die mid lane, which of course he had to do, we were looking at a potential perfect game. We were to win this semi-final and move into the final, but of course,
All said and
Perkovic-
done though, G2 had a great game plan coming in here that they executed.
They definitely executed the game plan. They knew, you know, what to do in the early game to kind of get past the early game, shut down the Aurelia. Again, I really feel like Unicorns did not respond at all with any counterplay, and the fact that 2v2 lane lost this hard as well is not something you can predict in the pick and ban phase.
And this
by
kind
any
of
means.
sums it up. But this is
so
the thing,
painful.
when we've seen this series from G2, it has not looked the cleanest from them far and away. But this game, this is what we might have expected.
Yeah, this is what we want to see, obviously, from G2, the first place team. Playing it out like this, executing the early game well, and just picking up kills left and right.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little hard for Unicorns. Looking at that third place match, they still will be going to Krakow, looking to make a gauntlet run, trying to make Worlds. We have not seen them at Worlds. Well, they have never failed to make playoffs, and this is the best they've done since their inaugural split.
They nearly made it last year.
Yes.
If it weren't for H2K on points, I believe it was.
10 points.
It
10
could be
points.
H2K again, but not on points.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is they can actually deny H2K going on points this year should G2 win the split and Splice take second place. There's Splice already in the finals, so obviously first or second for them. So they could play spoilers to H2K.
Yeah, basically, if Splice wins the split, they will go to Worlds with G2. If G2 wins the split, well then if H2K get third place, so if they beat Unicorns, they will go to Worlds with G2 and everyone else has to play the gauntlet. So a lot to play for, obviously, in the final.
Also the fact that Unicorns, of course, the more points they can get, the better seeding in the gauntlet as well.
Is
don't know how
important,
that can actually change right now until everybody is locked down. But
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces till we get to it.
G2 are looking to knock down a few towers.
It's
more on
too
the
easy with Tristana.
Yeah.
This is criminal right here. It's gone. 22 minutes. We got 6 towers to 0. Unicorns of Love are down 12,000 gold. Chachi gets swept aside by Expect, and he's just walking away with 3 unicorns chasing him down. They might get the shutdown here.
G2 are going for Baron, though.
Yeah, G2 just say, that's fine. We can go ahead and sacrifice Expect for a moment. He is still walking. Finally shut down. Veritas really needed some gold, but it's a two-man Baron. You can do this with Tristana. It's in full vision.
Perks on Exile.
And now Exile is going to get locked down for a few seconds. Throws on the Hemo play, trying to outplay Perks here. We might see it happen again. Perks, is he going to stay alive? In comes Smithy. Exile exhausted. Hylissang finishes him off. And now they get the big knockup. Exile going low. This has gone really haywire all of a sudden, but Sven has joined the fray, and he just has too much damage. A double kill.
Ooh, Chachi canceled his TP. G2 moves doing an Ocean Drake.
Why not?
At this point, just trying to get anything that he can.
Yeah, what is he going to do, right? Get something on the map.
Small victories, I guess, at this point.
Exactly what Deficio was saying.
Yeah, small victories.
Oh boy.
13,000
Big loss for Sadler right now as well.
Big victories up top, though. G2, they're starting to march. This Tristana is doing so much damage. Expect has done so much work across the map as well. After the teleport, he's just zoning off. They take inhibitor number 1. It is 24 minutes on the clock. This could very well be the fastest game of the series.
And Unicorns of Love have just lost everything. Honestly, even Exile in the end. Can't really blame him for anything. He tried his best.
Mithy just comes in and he's like, nah, I don't need to. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute. Okay.
Of course, Perks has to die again here.
This is like the Fox News of replays. We missed the bit where Expect took 4
Showed
people
2
bot lane.
kills from Exile.
They got the Baron. Now we're showing Exile being able to hold on. At this point,
And then some
G2
action.
are able to just close it out from there. So we got the end of G2 doing well there.
Oh, you can't hit them all.
This has been a much better game out of G2. If you guys are just tuning in for this game, this was not how the entire series went. Unicorns actually put up a really good fight in 3 games and have really not found their form here in game 4.
And it's not like they didn't have any ways to win the game. Honestly, they had a lot of ways to win the game, but once you start losing 2v2 bot lane and actually get destroyed 2v2 bot lane, and again, your top laner gets camped over and over, well, then your comp doesn't really matter. Nope, because then you're just going to lose no matter what.
Yep, 25 minutes. G2 are looking to push down bottom side with Baron. Unicorns are massing up here. Even in the top side, too. Trick is actually split pushing. Or excuse me, not Trick.
Perks. He doesn't have TP.
They're both purple,
This
my
would
bad.
be a splice
It's been a long day.
Be a splice play if they had TP on that Malzahar. That is what Senkux likes to do, but it doesn't matter.
No,
They're
macro
just
doesn't
so
matter
far
now
ahead.
at all. Like, you can do kind of whatever you want.
Let me catch Exile. Oh boy, Chachi trying to polish him off, but it doesn't really. Maybe it does. Okay, Perks is dying.
Perks is lagging, don't worry.
Expect didn't like ping his ult cooldown, so completely trolls Perks on that one. We did add that a while back. Expect, please do that. It's nice to
Do not talk to
communicate.
your
man,
team.
he
Use
saved
the
his summer.
smart
Just
ping.
use the smart
We want the
ping.
smart ping
It's
going.
good.
Yeah. All right. Unicorns have 4 kills in total.
And this
Most
is
of them been
this
shut
is
down.
it. No, this is the chance for Unicorns. Move, you have flash, body slam.
Get 'em.
Use
15
it.
seconds.
Please use it because it's a 4v5. You're 0-0-0. You got to do something.
They're gonna lose Nexus Tower even if they do it.
Like, at least do it to try and maybe force a flash from Sven or something while Perks is dead. If you don't, well, then you will just lose the game in like 2 minutes from now.
Yeah.
It's
Baron
your
up
chance,
minions.
move. Come on.
There we
Nope.
go. They hop on in. Expect he's just frontlining here. The tower
It's
going
4v5.
very low. Look at that damage. They're dishing out. It is 4v5. It is just enough. Hylissang gets the ult out in time, but it's not onto Exile. Double kill over to Sven. Just like that, he hops, and everyone is rolling right into the back. Trick picks up a big kill, dominating. Who cares about turret lasers? Triple kill for Tristana, and it's all base for G2.
They're already onto the Nexus turret. This is gonna be G2 taking it.
They are looking for it. 26 minutes, by far the fastest game. G2, full control. This is the form we're looking at, and this is them going to finals. We'll see them there in a week.
G2 take the series. They will face Splice on Sunday in Krakow and potentially look for their 2nd title in a row.
And what a different game.
Yes,
Like-
that was not the series. That was just
That was
game 4.
definitely not what I expected coming into this 4th game here. You know, we saw like, oh, both teams have ways of winning here. Unicorns pretty good draft, blah, blah, blah. Games have been very even. T2 haven't looked that clean.
I like the draft.
Destroy 2v2 bottom lane because Sven and Mithy play really, really well. Trick camps top lane on Elise, you know, gets a few 4 kills, I believe it is, for Expect. And that's game.
Yep.
Like,
Just
so
like that.
simple. That's game.
They will get a big chance to defend their title here. So, I mean, you can't say this was unexpected.
No,
But 3 games of that series certainly were.
definitely agree. I think a lot of people actually would have looked at a 3-1.
Yeah.
I think for G2, where like enough respect for Unicorns to say these guys can like pull one game where they kind of snowball and G2 mess up a little bit, and that did happen.
Perks predicted
Perks knew
He called
exactly
it.
what
He
was
knew
happening.
exactly.
why they lost.
So yeah, like all right, get the 2-1, and then
All
we
those
show
deaths
up
were
now.
deliberate.
But I do feel still, G2 will go back and look at game 1, 2, 3, kind of realize a lot of issues. Yeah, they got to fix.
Yeah.
Game 4 obviously is how they want to play, but that was like the perfect scenario.
Oh, yeah.
In where you just destroy Relia, who has to snowball early, and you get a massive advantage, and your bot lane destroys the enemy bot lane. That's not the kind of stuff you normally will play around and draft around specifically, but
It's also not really going to happen often in a finals or at Worlds.
No.
Maybe in a game. So you can't rely on
it did
that.
happen.
It did.
Splice will definitely challenge G2 in this final here. With what we've seen from Splice so far, what we've seen from G2 today, I think that's going to be an extremely close final that can go back and forth a lot. So that's going to be very, very exciting to watch, obviously. I'm glad we got to see, G2 really show up in the last game here and play some great League of Legends.
Doesn't matter how you start, as long as you finish it strong. So G2, at least they managed to finish it in the end, and that's what matters. Unicorns, they had a real shot at it today, and I think not a lot of people would have given them that before game 1.
And also, I just want to do a quick shout out to all the Danes at home watching handball, the Olympic final. Denmark has just beat France.
What?
It's a big victory for our country because we do love handball quite a lot. I know a lot of people hate it.
It's that
We just won the
I
Olympics,
don't know.
guys. Hello. Anyway, whatever.
G2 just won the series.
Yeah, G2 won and Denmark won. It's great.
What would you do if I just sat up here and talked about cycling? Because that's all Britain's good at.
Did you guys win?
A lot. It doesn't matter.
Move on then.
It doesn't actually matter right now. What
The important
matters
thing is G2.
Is G2 going up against Splice in Krakow, and I want
It's
to hear
going to
what
be great.
G2 had
It
to
is
say
going to
about
be so fantastic. G2, they've earned their place to play Splice in the Summer Split Finals in
Got the
Poland.
goal.
Now, Sifa, he's standing by on stage with Sven and Perks to get their thoughts about it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Great cast on the day. I wanted to say that one for a while. But, guys, absolutely commanding performance there in Game 4, but that was not the whole story for the series. It was very back and forth in those first 3 games. Can you tell me what was going on in those games that made them feel so close?
So, first game, we actually had a lead early game, I think, and then we trolled it a bit because there was some miscommunication. We took some very bad fights, which we shouldn't have. And then we came back, or like we won some team fights because we have better comp, I think. And second game, we like got really stomped early game. So it was kind of doomed. And then we still could have won, but then when we had like 4 or 5 items, we forced the fight mid, and then it was like, we can fight, but plot whistles, we couldn't fight. So then game 3, what happened game 3? I don't remember anymore. Oh, Talia game, oh yeah.
Yes.
The Talia game, that one was close because I think we didn't play to our winning conditions very well. In the early game at least, so they actually like got some kills with LeBlanc roaming top, and then after one fight bot, the game was kind of open up, and then it was a really good game again. But
So handing it over to you, Sven. Coming in Game 4, you put on a clinic on that Tristana. Do you think Tristana is a pick we can expect more from in the future, or is this something that you kind of pulled out in a time of need?
I don't think Tristana is like a super good pick. I think it's actually bad in lane against Sivir, but it's really good later in the game. I didn't expect to actually win lane with that pick, but it's good against their champs later in the game, as teaching and stuff like this. Good late against scaling too, but it's like I couldn't really pick Jhin against the champions. Ashe was banned and I had Sivir, so there was so many champs to pick. I think Lucian is okay, but Lucian wins lane against Sivir, but he's not so good later in the game, I think, against their champs. So I chose Tristana for weaker lane phase and stronger late game team fighting and sieging.
Well, you got the best of both worlds. You did end up winning that laning phase. Awesome to see some of those individual outplays and the confidence coming in those dives. But looking ahead, finals in Krakow, faced up against Splice. You guys went 1-1 in the regular season last time you faced. We'll pass it back to you, Perks. How do you feel about the matchup coming up? Do you feel confident after today's games?
well, our today's series was kind of shit, or we played pretty bad. So it's not like I feel super confident to our play, but I think we have shown not even half of what we play. From screens and stuff, because we can play a lot of different styles. So I'm pretty confident going into match versus Splice, because I feel that in that series versus H2K, they kind of exposed H2K, and had the same picks all game, which won them the game. Like Wunder were carrying along with Nar and Gragas jungle. So I think Splice is a good team, but I think we have a good chance versus them.
Final question, looking ahead, gentlemen, you've already qualified for Worlds, but unfortunately, due to the lackluster performance from Europe at MSI, the most we can hope for is a second seed. So I'm curious, as we look ahead to the group stage, are you guys at all nervous coming in as a second seed, knowing that you're going to have to face the top teams in the world? We'll start with you, Sven.
I think last year I had a third seed, and it went pretty well for me. I think second seed is not the worst, it's not the best either. But I don't think it's like a super big problem to have a second seed. Sometimes second seed is worse than third seed. Like last year, for example, second seed had EDG and SKT, you know, so it's not always better to have second or third. So I think it's going to be okay for us, personally.
I think it just depends on lucky or unlucky draw in groups, but I'm fine with playing versus the best teams because I think to actually go far in Worlds, you have to win versus everyone. So playing versus good teams in groups wouldn't be like end of the world. Maybe it will be really hard to get out of the groups, but if we do it, then we'll have a very huge confidence boost going further into tournament. So I'm just looking forward to Worlds, that's all.
Honestly, good to hear you guys both having a positive outlook on that state of affairs. But thank you so much for talking to me. Congrats again on the win. We're going to hand things back over to the analyst desk to further break down that series.
Thank you, Tifa, and welcome to the post-game lobby. I thought that was a very, very interesting interview coming out of you. A lot of interesting answers. The first thing I want to ask, of course, Trashy, you know, we asked how we do against Splice, and they said, well, very one-dimensional in terms of the draft space. Yeah. We immediately said, we didn't show you anything.
I mean, if you ban Nar and you ban Gragas, you probably have a free win, because, I mean, we have no other champions to play, so
Yeah, they are.
At that point, you probably just win. So kind of sucks for us.
How are you gonna deal with this? Maybe have you tried practicing other champions, or are you just gonna keep picking Nar and script for morale boost?
I mean, if Gragas is open in solo queue, I usually just only pick it because it's the only champ I really can play. So I tried other champs, but not with the same success. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Trashy. Another thing that I want to jump on is Perk saying, we trolled a bit. Every single interview that I've ever done with Perks or that I've heard, he said if they ever lost a game, we trolled a bit. Come on, guys, isn't it time to stop? And this is the semi-final series of the splits where you know you want to prove something.
He's not wrong. He was trolling quite a bit. I mean,
but in terms of, you know...
Well, I don't know. Getting solo kill at this point almost feels like just something that's supposed to happen in the game. But jokes aside, I think this last game, it's really hard to like take something out of it, honestly, because I feel like it was nothing else like the other games. The other games were actually close, and there was just these tiny, small details that made the difference. Meanwhile, this game, it was pretty much over in a couple of minutes.
But hence the question, should a team that is vying to do well on the international stage and win the final not clean it up for semifinals and try to show, or at least play cleaner without showing that much?
I mean,
they can't.
When you're snowballing, but when you're smashing a team this hard, like
I'm talking about games 1, 2, and 3.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, well, by all means, G2 should have been cleaner. Getting sucked into the skirmish style from Unicorns, honestly. If Unicorns were a bit more crisp in their kind of like exile roam stop, use that advantage of dive bot execution, G2 would have been 1 and 2 behind in the series.
I mean, we also have to give props to UOL. I think they played the early game in those games well, and they put like they made G2 struggle a bit, and I don't think G2 necessarily is like the best early game team, and I think UOL found some openings to abuse that, and this series would have been even more close if UOL actually had better understanding of what to do in the mid game.
So if UOL was Splice,
then it might have been a lot more closer.
Yeah, this is obviously the problem also for G2. If they don't smash UOL in 3 games super quickly, then we're going to criticize them. But we are looking at a team that's going to Worlds from Europe, so I think that's fair. But overall, did you have anything to add?
No, just listening, you know, enjoying the conversation.
Sorry, misinterpreted that. MVP as for this series is I'm just going to read it off. Sven locked in MVP for the day, the greatest AD carry in Europe, and oftentimes Sven does really well. But how come he doesn't get MVP most of the times and he gets it now?
Yeah, the question we have to ask ourselves sometimes when we decide is MVP versus like Trick for Sven, it's like, what could Sven have done better to get the MVP? And very often the answer is like nothing. But the problem is just that jungle is such a highly influential role. And Trashy, you mentioned this actually off air quite a few times, how Trick consistently was 1 or 2 entire levels above his opponent Move.
I think this is probably one of the biggest struggles for Move as a player, and what I've seen from him is that he tends to just in the mid game fall behind. His early games sometimes are good. He can snowball lanes and stuff, but somehow he always finds himself behind in XP and 2 levels down, sometimes even 3 levels down in this series. And overall, I feel like Trick was just miles ahead of him, and if there is such a big mismatch in a series like this consistently, then you will have a hard time.
Yeah, and that's standing grounds for potentially, Trick MVP, who we're going to give it to. I think both of them were definitely worthy of it. Maybe Soraka performance was honestly in terms of serious influence of an individual game, I think that was a really stellar game from Mithy then, because it swings the momentum, imagine if they dropped that game. So there's all these guys played very well. They all deserve MVP.
I also just realized that I got a little bit trolled by I was reading the prompter. I didn't get a chance to look it over for the MVP because I don't know what the casters voted, of course. And it says the greatest AD carry in Europe. I didn't want to make that my opinion. Is he?
I mean, he's a Dane.
Is he? Oh.
Denmark won in handball, right? I mean, this is a day for Denmark.
Let's repeat that again. Denmark won. But the greatest AD carry in Europe is Van, yes or no at this time?
Yes. I mean, I don't think there is much question to it, but I do think something that many people miss out on is that actually his prowess as a player isn't actually his mechanics, even though he often shines in that regard. It's actually his game knowledge. I think many times you just see him in a favorable position, if not all the time, actually. It's just so rarely that I find him out of position or just fighting when he shouldn't be fighting. It's always on his power spike. He's always in the right position on the map.
And that's something he's worked on, because there were a couple of games like Spring Split where he was maybe overextending a couple of times because he was so used to having these Lulu comps built around him. And then once he didn't have that anymore, he was playing frontline Lucian.
Yeah.
But his team also lets him make those mistakes because they know he will improve. This guy is so good.
Yeah, fantastic team overall. Let's take a look at the finals bracket as it is now fully locked in for Krakow next week. And here is what is on the cards. The Unicorns of Love versus H2K on Saturday for the 3rd place match, and G2 versus Splice on Sunday. Predictions, gentlemen. Let's start with the 3rd place match. Reckless.
I think actually both matches are hard to call. I mean, going into the H2K Splice series, I called it for H2K convincingly, and going into today's series, I called it for G2 convincingly, and it felt like both series were actually a lot closer than they perhaps should have been, going into things. But I think generally speaking, all the teams that are in top 4 are good on this patch, and both series will be quite close.
So who wins?
Okay, if I have to call it, I think Unicorns will actually beat H2K, and I think finals 3-2 G2, maybe.
If Unicorns beat H2K and G2 wins the final versus Splice, you guys are still going on championship points because H2K has to be 3rd.
I would like that.
And what do you think will happen?
I mean, maybe we will win, but if Unicorns win, that's also good for us.
Can you win, Trashy?
I mean, of course we can win.
So do it!
I mean, I think the play today showed that G2 have weaknesses, and that is what gives us hope that we can beat them. And I think it's so weird talking about it because we have practiced so much against G2, and it kind of I don't know why Perks would say that they only play these champs, because obviously they know we played other champs too, and we kept
maybe it's to get in your head.
So yeah, it's already in my head. But he should know, because we practice so much against them, and honestly, maybe it comes down to whoever finds out something specific that they can pull out in this upcoming week. Because we pretty much know each other in and out, and
that's gonna be really hard for us to even consider analyzing these pick and bans, because these teams will be 2 mental steps ahead. Because we'll be clearly this is the meta pick that's gonna come out, and then a random Yorick mid will be locked, and we're where does this come from? Because it's the counter of the counter of the counter. But it'll definitely be. It's always fun to see teams play on the stage that have scrimmed each other so much in their preparation, because then we get either really good games or one-sided stomps.
Yeah. TLDR, it's going to be super interesting, and you guys, tickets are still available to join us there in Krakow. Head over to lolesports.com for details. And I see we are mere minutes away from going over to the NALCS, so we're about to shut down here in Europe. But coming up next, the NALCS will be live with our 2nd semi-final between TSM and CLG. Fiery prediction, TSM or CLG?
TSM.
TSM.
Yeah, TSM.
All right, 3 times TSM.
I mean, there's
no. That's it. We gotta
Let's
go.
go,
We gotta go. We gotta go. Time for us to log off right now. Thank you guys so much for joining
You're welcome.
us.
Thank you.
No problem. I mean,
You gotta toss it. What's
mind
going
game.
on?
Next time you'll see us, we'll be live in Krakow, Poland. Join us at the Tauron Arena on Saturday, 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time as we crown Europe's best. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Ay, ay, ay.